Maxey off the Bona screen. Maxey short.
Oh.
Bona! The Sixers lead!
So the Wizards last night, if you were paying attention, they played the 76ers last night. They had a 16-point lead going into the fourth quarter. They had a 17-point lead with about 10 minutes to go. Had a 13-point lead with about 4 minutes to go, and had a 10-point lead with 2.5 minutes left in the game. They blew it. Game went to overtime, and Philly won it 139-134 in OT. Not a lot of defense in the games the Wizards are involved in, but they are exciting. I did not watch it, Max. I was watching the baseball last night. I was flipping back and forth a little bit, but when the Wizards took a big lead, I thought, wow, they're going to get off to a 2-2 start. It's never over with the Wizards. They don't defend well. They had, at one point, on a switch, they had Alex Sarr guarding Tyrese Maxey at about 25 feet. That's not what you would call good defense. Alex Sarr, by the way, the number 2 pick from last year's draft, the 2024 draft, 31 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 block shots. He's really developing into something. What that something is, time will tell. Same with Keyshawn George. Same with a lot of their young players. They do have some talent. And for those of you saying, what the hell is CJ McCollum? And when I say those of you, I don't even know if there's those of you. I have one friend that texts me every single night when the Wizards are playing and gives me every single detail from the game, even if I'm not watching it. And he said, what the hell are Chris Middleton and CJ McCollum doing in these games? At the end, this is the experience our young players need. I would agree with that, I guess. And then he ripped the Wizards for having Chris Middleton shoot the last shot in regulation. I actually saw that. I thought it was a good look for Middleton. From literally the elbow, a shot that he can knock down more times than not. He had that look at the buzzer, missed it. The Wizards lose 139-134 in overtime. That's enough Wizards for the day. The 76ers are 4-0. And the guy that really was super impressive was this guy Bona, Adam Bona, UCLA second-year guy, was a second-round pick last year, 6'10", but arms that literally hang to the floor. And he had 5 block shots, like 2 or 3 of them late and in overtime, to really, stop the Wizards from perhaps a 2-2 start. There you go. World Series last night to Toronto. I'm telling you guys, I hope you guys are watching this. I know we're in the midst of football season, but the baseball's been incredible. Ohtani pitched last night, and just the drama around Ohtani pitching on literally, 3 hours sleep, 4 hours sleep after the game had ended super late. Ohtani, 9 at plate appearances in Game 3, reached base 9 times. That's 3 better than the all-time record for the World Series. And 4 of them were intentional walks, 5 total walks, but he had 2 homers. And then he's on the mound last night pitching, and he was fine. He did give up 4 earned runs left, early in the 7th, and pitched 6 complete, 4 earned, 6 Ks, and they ended up losing 6-2. And Ohtani at the plate the night after going, 4 for 4, but 9 at bats and 9 reached bases, was 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. The Dodgers a little bit tired last night, as Toronto should have been, but Vlad Guerrero with a homer in the game. And there you go. It's 2-2, Game 5 tonight. Pivotal Game 5. I think this feels like we're headed towards a Game 7, but who knows? But some really, really good baseball. This will be the last one at Dodger Stadium, and then we figure then we go back to Toronto for Game 6 on Halloween night, and maybe a 7th and deciding game on Saturday night. I got this from Andy. I wanted to answer this because Dan Quinn apparently answered this yesterday as well. And Andy writes, Kevin, watching the game, the Ertz catch on 4th and 6 seemed like a bad spot. And then they went to virtual measurement. It was short. Why didn't Quinn challenge the spot? Yeah, I mentioned that on the show yesterday. I felt like he should have challenged the spot. Well, Andy, you and I bet others, did not know the new rule, which was put in 2023. And Quinn actually answered this yesterday, but he's not allowed to challenge that. Any fourth down unsuccessful play is automatically booth reviewed if it's close. So that was booth reviewed, just like a touchdown or a turnover is booth reviewed. Quinn did not have the opportunity to challenge the 4th and 6. I didn't think it was a great spot in real time. I didn't think it was a great spot after seeing it on replay, after watching it on the All-22. I did not think it was a great spot, but they booth reviewed it and they didn't see enough evidence to move it to the line to gain. And Washington was out of luck there on that first of their 2 failed 4th down attempts. This from Jason Q. Jason Q writes, Kevin, it's over. It's way over. Sorry to tell you. Have you watched Seattle, Detroit, Denver? They won't win any of their next 3 games. 3 out of the next 4, LOL. I've been saying they have to win 3 out of the next 4. They should be big sellers at the deadline. Look, I have watched Seattle, I have watched Detroit, and I have watched Denver. And I would agree, all 3 of those teams actually are better teams than Washington. They are. Seattle's 5-2, and they have looked great. Phenomenal on defense, so well coached defensively. The addition, obviously, of Sam Darnold gave them a quarterback that is playing at that level that he played at last year. Now, Darnold is prone to, a head-scratching mistake or 3 in a game. But they've got, running backs in Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet. And you want to see what an elite wide receiver coming into his own looks like. Watch Jackson Smith-Njigba. 50 catches already on the season, 819 yards, 4 touchdowns, averaging 16 and a half yards per reception. He's uncheckable. They also have Cooper Kupp, who's now, 35 years old or whatever he is. And they've got a decent offensive line. They are nasty defensively. There's also some health issues defensively. We'll see what that looks like on Sunday. But, Jason, I'm counting on home field meaning something. I'm counting on the return of Jaden Daniels to mean something. Yes, they're going to be, somebody mentioned this to me last week, and it turns out I think you're going to be right, although we'll see what happens with the line as we approach game day and the information on Daniels becomes more, I think, official. Quinn said yesterday, do you have that sound right now on Jaden Daniels?
Yeah,
Max?
his practice plan?
Yeah, just real quickly on Jaden Daniels, let everybody know what Quinn said yesterday in his day after game press conference.
Real quick on the injuries with Jaden, do you have a plan for him for this week?
Yeah, of course we have a plan. So yeah, he had a good rehab session on days are screwed up on Sunday. Team's back out at practice tomorrow, and we plan on him being a part of that.
So practice today, he's planning for Jaden to be a part of that. I hope that means full go today. And if that is a full go today, then we know he is planning, Quinn is planning for Jaden to start on Sunday. And I think that even with that, it's possible Washington could be a slight favorite by game time. They are a 3-point underdog right now with the news unknown about Jaden Daniels. We saw what happened last week when he was ruled out. I mean, the line jumped from basically 5.5 to 13. It really was going to be around 7, and it went 13. Came back a little bit before game time. But somebody mentioned to me last week, they're going to be underdogs in all 3 of those games at home. And I said, I don't know. I think Seattle and Denver, there's a chance they could be favored in both of those games. I don't know that Jaden's official return will move it in Washington's favor. It'll move the number for sure. How much it moves it, we'll see. They'll be an underdog to Detroit. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They're going to be an underdog to the Lions, remember, this coming weekend, they play the Vikings this coming weekend, and then it's Washington, Philly, Giants in a row, Cowboys 2 weeks after that. They basically play the NFC East in 5 weeks, 4 games against the NFC East with a Thanksgiving Day game against Green Bay in between. But the Denver situation, yeah, they could be. Whoever wrote that to me or whoever said that, you could be right. They could be underdogs in all 3. And back to Jason, yeah, like it's in play that they lose the next 3. They're playing 3 all-around teams that are better. Seattle's got a better team. Detroit's got a better team. Denver's got a better team. Washington will be at home, and they will have, hopefully, the better quarterback in these games. And so that goes a long way, as we know. So I'm counting on Jaden and a healthy Jaden. And with Terry hopefully back, we're going to get more news on him today from Quinn. A little bit concerned about that one for sure. But a healthier team for this stretch is paramount. They don't have a shot without Daniels. And they don't have a very good chance without Daniels against these 3 teams, given the moment, which is they got to win 2 of these 3 and then beat Miami as well without a healthy enough roster. Terry, Debo, Tunsil, Kinlaw. They need all of those things to come together. There is no doubt about that. I mentioned something yesterday that took some people back. I think I was actually surprised, and we'll have calls today on the show. We've got 2 guests, by the way, lined up. Eric Edholm from NFL.com and the NFL Network will join us at 11. We'll talk league stuff, other teams. We'll talk some Washington as well. And then Mark Zuckerman, I've been, texting back and forth with him during these baseball games. He's going to jump on with us at 11:35 to get more into what happened on Monday night, because I know a lot of our audience turned the TV off after Monday Night Football and missed truly maybe the greatest postseason baseball game in history. And so we will talk to Zuck about that at 11:35. We've got NFL buy and sell today, but I'm going to give you guys a chance, especially those of you who did not get a chance to weigh in yesterday on the Kansas City loss. We'll open up phones. But I talked about, for me, that there was a sign, I thought, of what they've been trying to build, culture-wise, with the players, with the staff, with the overall vibe. I loved the way they competed. I know that sounds overly simple to some of you, and there's a lot of eye-rolling with some of you. I know many of you felt the same way, and Quinn said it, and by the way, Mahomes said it. Mahomes said this was a team that came out firing on all cylinders, and we couldn't match their energy, or we didn't match their energy in the first half. I was listening to Von Miller on the Junkies this morning talk about how they really felt good about the first half. They felt great about practice and felt great about the game. That's what I'm talking about. Jim B wrote me and just said, culture, and then has an emoji, or a video of somebody sticking their finger down their throat to vomit. Win games, that's all that matters. Yeah, it is all that matters ultimately. But to win games and to win games consistently, you've got to have a decent culture. Look, I'm comparing it to the past. I get that. I understand that. The past is, one of the true jokes of an organization in sports of all time that never had a culture, and they've had to build one from scratch, and I think they've done a terrific job. I just thought the game Monday night represented who Quinn and the people that Quinn have and Adam Peters, the people that they've brought in. That was a double-digit underdog, no chancer for any NFL fan watching throughout the country. Now, we know in the NFL, anything can happen. And at halftime, it looked like, wow, it's going to be one of those anything can happen on any given Sunday or any given Monday night, because they were very much legitimately in the game and should have had the lead. They were the better team in the first half. But like we talked about yesterday, games aren't 30 minutes, they're 60 minutes. And our team didn't have Patrick Mahomes, and their team did. But I thought really ultimately it was about, it was something that has, at least in my mind's eye, some carryover. Like, I don't fear this team folding. 2 years ago, we were in the midst of one of the all-time tanks of all time. Rivera completely lost that 2023 team. They continued to trot out Sam Howell, who was terrible, and by the way, has really not gotten a shot since. Is he on a roster? I don't even know if he's on a roster anymore. He should be on a roster. I think he's capable of being a backup. But remember how that season just went from one blowout after another. And thank God the one close game against the Jets, we got the missed field goal by Zerline at the gun or the made field goal, by Zerline at the gun to lose that game, or we wouldn't have Jaden Daniels. But that's not, I don't see that happening ever with a Dan Quinn team. Now, I haven't gone back and looked at the Atlanta teams in that last year that started 0-5. Remember, he got fired at 0-5. In that last year. So he didn't have a chance to resurrect a season that had gone terribly wrong. It was the 2020 season. He was replaced, by the way, by Raheem Morris, who is the current Atlanta coach. And they started 0-5 and he got fired. And every single one of those games was close, including the last game that he coached was a 7-point loss. They lost by 4. They lost by 1. They got beat by double digits to Seattle and Green Bay, but those were a little bit earlier. Raheem Morris, by the way, came in and won his first game as the interim coach that year, beating the Minnesota Vikings 40-23. Anyway, I just think that we got a different vibe here and different people, and there are adults, and they've signed players that they view as more adult-like. And I thought it was a tremendous effort. It's not good enough. I get it. They got to win games. That's what they're judged on. But to me, I think, the thing I worry about is what Ian actually, DM'd me, and it's not that far off from being true a lot of the times. Sometimes you can empty the tank in a game like that and you lose it, and it really has some carryover effect, especially on a short week. But I'll count on the fact that the most important player for Washington didn't play in the game. And so there isn't going to be a tank emptying situation for number 5 on Sunday night. But he's going to have to lift all boats over this next stretch. And I do feel like the game against Seattle feels, even though I've said 3 of the next 4, and if they lose to Seattle, they could then win the next 3. They could, but that would look bleak if they fall to 3-6. They got to beat Seattle at home on Sunday night. You got to have a home field advantage, too. It's got to be a legitimate lift-em-up home field advantage. This has to be one of those games way back in the day. Team might have lost a game or 2, and they came back home, and it was, as Coach Joe would say, all 55,000 had to be there, and there was elevation from that home crowd. That has to be the situation. It's Sunday night football. They're trotting out the championship uniforms for this one. I'm going to, observe what the helmet looks like, but I'll feel like I'm rooting for my team. And this has to be, a rough night and a tough night for Sam Darnold and the Seattle Seahawks when they're on offense. Of course, it would help if our defense had the capability of consistently stopping teams. But crowd and crowd noise can be a big deal Sunday night, and this is desperation time. The season isn't over, and I'm not ready to sell, Jason. But to his point, there's one more game before the trade deadline. We are, 6 days away from the trade deadline. Last year, they bought. This year, we'll see. Maybe Sunday night will be a big tell on what happens. All right. I have some, upon further review, especially when it comes to Marcus Mariota's performance. I gave him a B+ Yesterday, BB plus, a little bit downgraded, not by much, but I'll tell you why when we come back. Kevin Sheehan Show, Team 980, and the team980.com.
Play clock at 2. Mariota just lobs it up for McLaurin. Did he get him down? Incomplete, out of bounds.
I don't know. It's a question of whether or not the right toe. The left foot's down. He's got it. That looks like a touchdown.
Troy, I agree with you. It looks like he has control with both feet down. I think it's a catch.
Really good catch by Terry McLaurin. 2 sensational catches. Pretty good throws, too, especially the one on the sideline. Does make you wonder about that 4th and 1. More on that coming up in a moment. I've got a few things that I wanted to go back and talk about from the game yesterday. I want to start with the sack in the third quarter. I'll jump ahead a little bit because this one is easy after looking at it on the All-22. Remember, it was a question of, is it Connerly Jr. or is it Cosme? It's Connerly Jr. It has to be. I mean, I think anybody can watch this and see the line slide left and one person slide right. Connerly Jr. slides right. The rest of the line slides left, and it leaves a gaping hole for Dana to come in and sack Mariota for a 10-yard loss. So that I would think, I could certainly be wrong, and I will certainly ask Steve Suter when he breaks down the film today about that specific play. But if you go back and you watch, and everybody was wondering what happened there, it's 21-7. It's feeling like the game's slipping away, but they're moving the football again. They're on the move again, and they've got a 3rd down and 11. Got to at least get half of it back there, right? So you have a 4th down opportunity, and there's an immediate sack, and it really appears to be Connerly Jr. that doesn't get the memo that we're sliding left. And if he slides left, Dan is picked up by Connerly Jr. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know if that's case solved because I could certainly be wrong, but that's what it looked like to me. So I think I mentioned yesterday the 4th and 1. The 4th and 1 where he throws to Terry is just, it's a miss, I think, for Marcus Mariota. The Marcus Mariota sack, I guess the reason I brought it up is I wanted to be clear, that was not on him. That's not a Marcus Mariota issue. The 4th and 1 is, to me, 0 coverage blitz, which is obvious. Everybody's coming, all right? They got 6 on the line of scrimmage, and they're bringing 2 more. I mean, there's not even a spy, in this situation. And you did have occasionally Bolton spying or somebody spying Mariota. And you've got to, I think, in that spot, not throw to Terry, who, Terry is a great contested catch guy. On a double move, you got to give him time. 0 coverage blitz, hard to give you time on a double move. The read here has to be Ertz immediately. If he throws to Ertz immediately off the line of scrimmage because the defender's playing with great depth, it's an easy pitch and catch, move the chains. Easy pitch and catch, move the chains. So if I didn't say that yesterday, because maybe we did kind of look that up during the game, during the show yesterday, I think we may have. But that was, to me, that was definitely on Mariota. The play had no chance. Terry doesn't even have a chance to get into, if that's what he's running, a double move, doesn't even have a chance for that. And the ball sails, way over his head. And it's a 4th and 1 missed. Sure, run the football. Run the football into a 0 blitz. That would have been tough. They had what they wanted on 4th and 1. He just, I think, doesn't go to the right spot, which would have been Ertz. The 4th and 6 we've talked about. It's actually a good throw to Ertz. Yeah, it's a little bit short of the sticks, but the caller that called in yesterday, and I don't think I answered his question, why do teams always throw short of the sticks sometimes, in 3rd and 7s or 4th and 5s? Well, sometimes that's what they're giving you, and you've got to rely on the yak. You've got to rely on that receiver to go get it after they've got the football, and that's your best opportunity to get a first down. We watch football. We know a lot of 4th and 7s or 3rd and 9s aren't exactly to the sticks. Hell, a lot of teams on 3rd and 9s will run a bubble screen. They think that's the best way to get it. Against, nickel or dime, sometimes teams will run it on 3rd and 7, and that's the best way to pick up a 3rd and 7. I don't have a problem with it. I don't even have that much of a problem, I don't think, with Ertz's route. He just didn't get it there, although it looked like he got it there. But the play before the 4th and 6 is the play that I wanted to mention. It's a sack, and this sack is, I think, on Mariota, and it's a crucial sack. We're in the first quarter. It's 0-0. They've already had the first drive go down the field and end in the interception. Unfortunate at the 18-yard line. They're at the Kansas City 38-yard line. It's 3rd down and 3. And Washington, I think, has a really good play. And it's Debo who, against zone coverage, is right in the middle of the field. And if that ball is out and on time, I think he scores. He's got the safety to beat. If the ball is there with him coming out of his break, it's him against the safety for a touchdown. But it's easily a first down. And Mariota doesn't throw it and then tries to, step up into the pocket, and he's sacked for a 3-yard loss, and that sets up the 4th and 6. In 2-down territory, 3rd and 3, maybe, you think about a play at that point to run the football. One of the things that's noticeable about this game when you go back and watch the All-22, and I've mentioned about 2 receivers coming open. Well, one of them was against zero coverage blitz. The other is against zone coverage, 3rd and 3. And I don't think Mariota sees that and instead ends up taking a sack. And maybe he got confused and thought it was man, whatever. But you do see that Kansas City loads the box a ton. After the early portion of the game where it looks like Mariota is going to be a big part of the run game, and they had some success on that opening drive running the football, including on that 3rd and 3 where Mariota takes it on the quarterback counter. They love that play. It looks better, quite honestly, with Mariota running it. But that first drive is, Mariota gets 3 on his own read. Krosky-Merritt gets 4. And then Krosky-Merritt gets another 2 or 3. And then Mariota on the 3rd and 3, the QB counter for 7 yards. Krosky-Merritt has another 4-yard run. It's great balance. That 4-yard run on the 2nd and 1 on the opening drive gives them the 1st and 10 at Kansas City's 18. And then you see they start to kind of, inch up and say, well, okay, if this is what you guys are going to do, we want to see, number 8 do it with his arm. We'd like to see Mariota do it with his arm. And he did it. They had some really good schemed up plays, very good schemed up plays. But I think, on not the 4th and 6th throw to Ertz, but the play that preceded it, that was a hurtful sack. Very hurtful because it's 4th and 6 instead of 4th and 3. You're also out of field goal range. I think you are. I don't know what Matthew Wright's distance was. They certainly could, if he could kick a 58-yard field goal, then 4th and 6, I don't know what the analytics would say. I see the green thing pop up on the screen as well. I would have thought that, if you've got a kicker with a big leg and he can make a 57, 58-yarder and it's 4th and 6 and you threw the pick on the first drive, maybe 4th and 3, 4th and 4, you go for it. 4th and 6, maybe you take the 3 and jump out to the lead. But you don't want to give them great starting field position on a miss at the 47-yard line or the 48-yard line. So I understand that. Look, he was going for it. He said, we're going for it. We're being bold. And so they went for the 4th and 6. But what really made that 4th and 6 was the play before it. And he misses Debo. There are probably a million reasons I don't even understand. But Debo comes wide open against zone coverage in that area where he's got an easy first down, and after the catch, then it's him against the safety, more likely than not, to see whether or not he can score. And on the 4th and 1, yeah, it's got to be Ertz against the all-out blitz, and maybe Mariota doesn't know it's an all-out blitz. But they're man across the board, 4 defenders, 4 receivers, and Ertz is given a big cushion in man coverage, and he's got to go there. And for some reason, he throws not only to Terry, but he throws way too early because he has to, because of the all-out blitz, and there's no chance on that play because Terry never even gets into the double move. But I was going to say one other thing is that there was some crowding of the line of scrimmage, if you're wondering why they may have gotten away from the run. And look, the Debo play on the interception, that is a run extension play. 1st and 10, we think this is the best way to get 4 or 5 yards. And it probably would have been had he caught it. And it would have been 2nd and 6 or 2nd and 5 at the Kansas City 13 on the opening drive. But you got to catch the football. The other thing that was noticeable is, man, you just don't have the other night anyway against that team. And they've got some good defenders. I mean, Trent McDuffie is a really, really good corner. They got speed. Bolton's an excellent linebacker, but there's just not a lot of separation consistently. There's great contested catching by Terry, no doubt about that. Even Ertz on the 4th and 6, it's a contested catch, and he gets close. But there's just not a lot of separation. You can man cover our team. If you can get after the quarterback, you can man cover our team. Now, against Jaden, tougher to play man coverage, because you don't want to turn your back on the quarterback. But there's just not a lot of separation. We've known that, as good as Terry is, and he's a really good receiver, the best or certainly top 5 contested catch guy in the league. It's not like he's going to be way up there in separation based on, route running, speed, etc. They didn't threaten Kansas City enough, and Kansas City could sort of crowd the line of scrimmage and dare them. And that's going to be a problem against some good defensive teams. Seattle's good defensively. Detroit is good defensively. Denver's good defensively. So they've got to come up with, I know people hate it, but their best way to move the football sometimes is with some of this horizontal stuff, and the line of scrimmage stuff, and relying on Debo and, and the quarterback and the running backs to get yards after catch. Because right now, they're not a big threat to take the top off. And I think that's a little bit of a problem with the offense right now. And look, they had that issue to a certain degree last year, but with Diami on the field at the same time that Terry was on the field, you had 2 guys who could run. You had 2 guys who could threaten deep. I feel like this year, especially the other night, there just wasn't a real threat over the top. And that's going to be a bit of an issue for them offensively. And that's why, Kingsbury's scheming it up the way he's scheming it up. Look, they moved the football consistently the other night without much of a run game. They tried early, and there was some success early, and without a true separator or a true deep threat in the game. And yet they were still able, through scheme and through some plays to move the football. And I think, on Sunday and beyond, if Jaden's healthy, they'll have a chance to close out some of those drives. Yeah. So that's kind of what I saw. I think the 2 4th downs are frustrating. They shouldn't have been in the 4th and 6 to begin with. And the 4th and 1, man, it's easy pitch and catch with Ertz. It certainly looks that way. And I don't think Mariota realizes it's an all-out zero coverage. Everybody, 4 defenders against 4 receivers, man coverage with 7 coming after him. I mean, they had, they had it all there and couldn't connect. They had an opportunity to connect, I think, on the 3rd down before the 4th and 6 and the 4th and 1 for sure. So for me, I was B+ territory for Mariota in this game. I think it's probably more of like a B- C+ because of those missed opportunities. Still, though, he was solid. He made plays. The touchdown throw to Terry, yeah, it brought rain. I mean, it was so high, that throw, but it was really probably the only way he could get it there. He's under pressure. He's coming all the way across the field. The deep one to Terry Terry had 2 catches that had to go to review because they were so incredible. He is a great contested catch and get your feet in the body parts you need to get the body parts down in to make the play count. They need him. They do. Whether he's a take the top off guy, which he isn't right now, separation guy, he's not that. You want to see some separation? Watch Jackson Smith in the Jigba this week for Seattle. That's separation. All right. Now, plays a different position, plays a lot out of the slot, but he is a great contested catch guy. I think you can get him the ball just like you can get it to Debo near the line of scrimmage. We saw it in the Detroit playoff game. We saw it many times last year. So I expect a lot of that, you know. I also expect teams to play, you know, like dare Washington to go deep and to throw over the top, especially if they've got teams and players that can cover. And you're playing 3 teams in the next 4 that do. All right. If you want to weigh in, we'll open up phone lines for a bit. 301-230-0980. We'll take a few calls, just reaction to Monday night and some of what we just talked about in terms of Mariota and the offense. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, happy Wednesday, everybody. Here's what's happening. The Blue Jays, they even the World Series 2-2 in a win over the Dodgers that was spurred by a Vlad Guerrero Jr. 2-run shot early, and then some small ball late from the Blue Jays to balloon their lead to 6-1. Dodgers get one back in the 9th, but Louis Varland able to close it out for Toronto. Final score 6-2. Game 5 gets underway tonight. Final game from Dodger Stadium this season at 8 p.m. To basketball, the Wizards, they held a nearly 20-point lead in the fourth quarter, but the Sixers able to chip away at that lead with another poor defensive performance down the stretch from Washington. Wizards fall 139-134, and the Caps lose 1-0 in Dallas off of a very weird bounce that goes right by Logan Thompson. Again, Caps fall 1-0 in Dallas. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all of football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
And then you talk about on defense, energy and all that. How did you feel about the McGee, Owens, and them getting more snaps? What did you see from them? And could we see even more of them moving forward?
Yeah, I like the speed that they brought, John. I felt that. Not to say that the game was clean in that way. We had 3 explosives in the first half in terms of the passing game, but I like the speed that I felt from them. And they've earned the right to, have some more ops in there too.
Yeah, they tried some different things. They did on Sunday, including Tyler Owens playing a bunch and Jordan McGee playing the most that he's played. By the way, real quickly on the 3rd and 3, because a friend of mine who is a coach in town said Connerly got beat. I listened to you yesterday, watched that play. Connerly was the problem on that play. True, and I should have mentioned that. Connerly does get beat and forces Mariota off his mark. And if he actually is able to protect a little bit better, it's actually Terry that this coach pointed out on a bit of a pick and a rub, who's the guy who breaks open. He's like, you're right, he could have thrown to Debo, but Terry's the intention. And he said to me, remember, you can screen against zone as much as you can screen against man, which is a true basketball thing as well. And it does look, going back, like Ertz is trying to set a bit of a screen for Terry to break through, and Connerly loses big. So I will not put that on Mariota. Let's get to some of your calls. Eric Edholm from the NFL Network will join us at 11. We'll get his thoughts on our team, and we can go around the league a bit too. Lap, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Kevin? Thanks for taking my call, man.
Sure.
I like the fight. You know what I'm saying? Early in the game, I was definitely appreciative of that. You know, they came out like they wanted it, man. I just wish we could have scored some more. And I think, of course, if Jaden was there, we definitely would have had a better chance. They're just a really good football team just across the board, man.
Yeah.
And I think Jaden needs to watch some Patrick Mahomes, man, and just see how he makes plays, man. Just Houdini-like, man. It's just
well,
amazing.
you don't think we saw a lot of Mahomes-esque kind of plays last year? It seemed like every week we were getting 3 or 4 of them. I'm not saying he's Mahomes. I'm not saying that. And I never have said that for those of you who said, you think he's better than Mahomes now? I never said he was better than Mahomes. I said he plays at times like Mahomes. Mahomes and Allen are the two that I would have taken, in the offseason before Jaden. But he had a lot of those off schedule. He lived off schedule last year.
Yeah. I like when he plays more like that, where he doesn't put himself at risk. That's the only thing. But Sunday night is a must win, Kevin. We gotta get this game, man, especially where we are with the conference standings. The NFC, I told you, is really tough. It's gonna be tough this year. And to your point, what you had said a while back, barring the injury, man. I mean, that's where we at. Where it's gonna be tough for us because we got a lot of injuries, man.
It would be nice to be sitting here 4-5 talking about a game against the Lions that would feel also very big, like you got to get it, but it wouldn't be win it or season's over. Seattle feels awfully big because Detroit is really good, but so are the Seahawks, no doubt. Thanks, Lap. Appreciate it as always. Let's go to Skip. Skip, go ahead.
Kevin, it's been hard to hang in there, with the injuries, especially at the quarterback, but all across the defense and offense. And then, the defense, if you don't have a defense, you really don't have a chance. So I was encouraged on Monday. I think what needed to happen was Quinn taking over some of the reins on the defense. And I think we saw that because he is a defensive coach. And I think he put his stamp on that game. In terms of getting the young guys in there and the enthusiasm with which they played. So that was a bit encouraging. And looking forward to Sunday, I saw on ESPN this morning, if they lose that game, they have a 6% chance of making the playoffs. Mm-hmm. ESPN analytics, which includes everything, all the tiebreakers and all of that.
Yeah.
So would you call it code red?
I mean, this is one Sunday night where it's like you just got to go get it. Somehow, some way, you have got to. It feels very much like at 3-6, it's far from over mathematically with still 8 games left. We understand that. But you got the Lions, who you could argue is the best team in the NFC. coming into your building, and then that's the code red game. That would be, you don't want that, I don't think. So yeah, it feels like it. Back to your first thing, Skip. I don't know how much Quinn took over. I do think that they tried to simplify things. I think they tried to get more speed on the field. That was evident. It's interesting because a lot of the, sort of defensive alignments were interesting to watch. I mean, at times just one defensive lineman, with his hand in the dirt on the field. But let's not forget, the second half did happen, and Kansas City went on 3 drives in 29 plays, 249 yards for 3 touchdowns. Although I did see this next-gen stat. How about this? Because we talked a lot about how it was more, I talked about more that it was the Chiefs and Mahomes than us. Last week it was us, Chicago, us. I mean, our defense has been terrible. It wasn't great the other night, but Mahomes the other night on extended plays, 8 for 9 for 149 yards and all 3 touchdowns. First time in his career that he's had 3 or more touchdown passes on plays where he had to extend for 4 or more seconds. That was Mahomes-esque without question in the second half. He was brilliant. He really was, which he is almost every time out. Thanks, Skip. Appreciate it. Let's go to Stevie Ray in Baltimore. Stevie Ray, thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah,
got to turn your radio down.
My radio isn't on.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. I'm on a set of headphones. Can you hear me now?
I got you, Stevie. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. You just said it. Mahomes, the things he does, I want to see that out of Daniel. The way he'll run to the sideline, but in his eyes, he's got such field vision, and being able to take that ball and throw it like almost back over his shoulder at open players. You think you got him, you're right on top of him, and then the next thing you know, he finds a guy open, and the guy picks up 15 yards to Kelsey or to the running back or whatever.
Yeah,
he's still no matter what happened in the Super Bowl last year, Mahomes is the creme de la creme when it comes to the NFL.
No doubt.
The guy in Buffalo is more of a bruiser. And this guy is more of a basketball player on the court, and that's what I love about Mahomes. And I think Daniels has that. I think he will look at that and start to be able to do the things that we're looking for when he can get on the field. As far as that game goes, I said it before. I said, sit down whoever you can. Let anybody sit down the hangnail and start getting people as healthy as you can to get to what maybe the stretch run.
Yeah.
As far as making the playoffs go, you got a chance to make the playoffs until you're out of the playoffs. That's it. With the day that they come out with the mathematics and say, nope, you're done, that's over, then you're still in it.
I always think that way too. I'm like you. I feel the same way. Now, there are years in which I understand it doesn't matter the mathematical capability. We don't have a team that is going to end up making that work.
Before we had Daniels.
But exactly. Yeah, with this team, I think you really have to wait until you're mathematically eliminated. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And and anything can happen. And the other teams are going to go through injuries too that we're going to be going against. So.
And look, I mean, to your point, I got to run them up against a hard break. But right now, the 7 seed is the 49ers. They're 5-3. So you're 2 games out of the 7 seed with a long way to go. Eric Edholm from the NFL Network next. Lamar Jackson supposed to return tomorrow night. Are the Ravens in trouble with the way they handled the injury reporting last week? We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Washington has Seattle coming to town, and Eric Edholm has the Seahawks in his latest power rankings as the 6th best team in the NFL. Eric writes for NFL.com, part of the NFL Network, one of my favorite NFL guests to have on. You can follow Eric on X, on Twitter, at Eric with a C _ Edholm. Did Washington play the best team in the league? I know you don't have them as your number one team, but did they just lose to the team that is probably going to be in the Super Bowl and represent the AFC or not?
Well, we'll see. You know, I know that if I ranked the Chiefs number one, I would get a lot of blowback. I get a fair amount right now, but what's funny is, like, you know, again, not to make this a power rankings discussion, but I'm surprised how people are so stuck on records. Like, I mean, you know, the Chargers won their first 3 games and then looked terrible. Like, should I still keep them up at the top of the rankings because they did well a month earlier? You know, there's all these different arguments, but it's hard not to look at the way the Chiefs are playing, even after a strange first half, mediocre first half, whatever you want to say. They can turn your lights out quickly, and they couldn't really do that the last couple of years, I didn't think. I mean, there were exceptions. There were a couple games, obviously, that you know, you saw them flex their muscles, but it was such a struggle, even in all the wins the last couple of years. Now that they have this full array of, you know, battle weaponry at wide receiver and still have Kelsey making plays, he's really, you know, he's been good after a pretty slow start this year. You know, I mean, that and getting Josh Simmons back in a few weeks, O-line should be in good shape. We'll see about Pacheco, but defense has answered the call. You know, they still have one of the best kickers in the game. I mean, obviously all the pieces are there because we've seen it come to fruition several times in the last 6, 7, 8 years. But, you know, even with the changes they've had, I mean, I think they might be a better version of what we saw in 2023 and 2024 possibly.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also agree with you, you know, how we get stuck on records. We do a power ranking segment, just like basically every, you know, sports talk radio show in America does. We do it on Thursdays. And I don't let the records influence the way I think. But with that said, in looking at your latest power rankings, you do have the Colts as the 2nd best team in the league at 7-1. Now, that's not letting it affect you totally, because if it did, you'd have them at number 1 instead of having the Detroit Lions as the best team in the league. But how much do you believe in Indianapolis?
Quite a bit. And it took me a little while. You know, I slow played them, and I'm sure other people did too. I purposely don't look at a ton of other power rankings out there. I don't want to be biased. I want these to be my pure ideas. And if people want to rip me for them, God bless them, right? I had the Colts sitting at that like kind of 8, 7, 8, 9 range for a couple weeks because I thought, you know, there was that close game against Jacoby Brissett at home. You know, there was how good are the Raiders? You know, they blew them out. They lost to the Rams and made a lot of mistakes in that game. So I kind of was still colored by that. But seeing them every single week come out and present problems for every defense they face, whether it's Jonathan Taylor, MVP candidate, whether it's Daniel Jones, who's played at least to that level through the first, you know, nearly half of the season. I really think Tyler Warren's made a huge difference from them. You don't see tight ends just sort of come into the league and make themselves look like 7th-year pros, but he's doing it. You know, kind of like Sam Laporta a couple years ago, where it was just like, all right, this dude belongs. And it's the same with Warren. I mean, he's been a problem. You know, Michael Pittman has really kind of come on and looked like that number 1 receiver. I guess if there's one area that worries me, they do give up a lot of yards. You know, they're prone to giving up chunks of yards, but they're also playing with a lot of leads, and they do have a pass rush. So that, you know, it's a pretty darn good formula so far.
What do you think, Eric, about, you know, like you and I have had these conversations just using kind of historical, you know, memory to come to a conclusion in the current, like, I think it's always difficult, you know, early in an NFL season to figure out who's good and who isn't. I mean, you can just look at the best quarterbacks and know that those teams are going to have a chance. But One of the things about this season in Indianapolis in particular, and it just kind of brings me back a little bit, like when you see point differential.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring that up. Yep.
Yeah, where theirs is. I mean, they're beating people by an average of 14.5 points per game. They're plus 116. Nobody else in the league is close to that. The second best point differential in the league is the Patriots at plus 67. I think that that's for me, and I'm wondering if it is for you, something that as it was growing here over the last couple of weeks, I'm like, well, they have to be good.
Yeah, the point differential is a great number that I fall back on a lot. I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, obviously there's some skewing of that, and who did you play and all that, and how many garbage time points were there for you or against you and all that. But still, by and large, the larger the sample size, that number is going to tell us quite a bit. We've had teams, obviously, that have had, very impressive records with negative point differentials that it throws your brain into a blender for a minute.
Right.
You have to sort of parse through it. But when you see plus 116, I think that's the number, right? 116 at this point. Through 8 games, as you pointed out, they're outscoring people by an average of 2+ touchdowns per game. You have no choice but to respect that, even with some games against lesser opponents. So, yeah, there's nothing close to it. If you look, I think the Patriots had a plus 254 season and a 16-game season
in 07
years back. Yeah, they're going to be on track to push that with one extra game. So, that doesn't guarantee they're going to be in the Super Bowl, of course, but they are absolutely flexing their muscles and going on the road a couple weeks ago and stomping the Chargers in the first half. That's the kind of thing you don't see out of average teams playing above their skis.
Yeah, not only that, I would actually look at the other part of it, which is in the NFL, it's not a given that the better team hammers the worst team consistently. Right. In fact, it happens more often that double-digit underdog covers, and they hammered the Titans, they hammered the Raiders, they hammered Tennessee twice. They blew out the Dolphins. Now that's week 1. I mean, the Cardinals game, to your point, was a little bit of an interesting, opportunity, and that happens. But the fact that they're pummeling the bad teams, we don't see that in the NFL, on a regular basis. Excellent so that's point. As impressive as what they did to the Chargers, to me anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I don't want to make this a handicapping thing. I think my bosses would call me in about 30 seconds after I hang up with you. But still, you're right to point that out. I mean, when bettors see those big underdog numbers, they lick their chops, right, for that reason. And so, yeah, I think it is interesting to see how thorough they've been all season long. I mean, just the questions around Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones and everybody not named Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman were so big this year that what they're doing is the sign of what we would expect out of the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Bills, teams that have established themselves for a long time, not the, out of nowhere team, but it just makes it all the more impressive.
So Sunday, we're going to get Bills and Chiefs like we get every year now, and we get in the postseason. I was thinking about this actually on my drive in this morning. There's not an obvious dominant great rivalry in the league right now. Steelers Ravens kind of took that, over for maybe a decade, but I don't feel that as much as I used to. Is this intra-conference, not intra-division, but intra-conference game, Bills Chiefs, is this the best rivalry in the NFL right now?
I think given the way that Buffalo has kind of taken control out of the regular season games, and then the Chiefs have kind of made up for it and taken care of business in the playoffs. And, again, just to this matchup specifically, we know how much it means for the Bills, and this is the final year at Highmark Stadium, blah, blah, blah. All their tough games are at home this year. They've already, they beat the Ravens in week 1. It felt big at the time. Now this one has replaced that as the more important game as we've come this far along. But how do you not look back at some of the crazy results and some of the fun results? Obviously start with the quarterbacks, but the head coaches have been the same the last several years too. A lot of the other key players. When you have that kind of body of work, even if they don't play every season, it lends to that kind of, 20 years ago we had Patriots Colts. They were not division rivals anymore at that point, but Brady Manning and all the divisional showdowns that they are conference showdowns this is the watered down version of that, but still pretty darn good, I think.
Yeah, there have been a couple of, in the 70s we had Steelers Raiders. That was not a division rivalry, but it was big.
Right.
We had the Niners and Cowboys in the 90s, Patriots, Colts, like you mentioned, and now I think we got the Bills and the Chiefs. I can't think of a rivalry right now that touches that. We're talking to Eric Edholm from the NFL Network. So where are you on the Eagles right now?
I think, back in my good graces, obviously it was, it was funny to me how, not funny, but it was interesting that, a lot of the questions were surrounding the offense. And obviously this is a powerful unit that was, you could say the defense carried them last year, but still, I mean, Jalen Hurts, when it mattered, came up big. And last season in the Super Bowl and prior to that. But they've seemingly fixed some of those things. I mean, it was great to see Barkley have his kind of breakout game this season after his production was less than half per game what he was averaging last year. And that just didn't look right. So him playing well, even with the injury, that's a great way to pull into the bye, especially with how the team has played the last few games. So they've survived these little short-term injuries. A.J. Brown missing a game, Jalen Carter missing games, That's a good sign to see, and that's exactly what you want to see out of a team that's already, gotten their skin on the wall. And if you look back at last year, they were okay early in the season. They weren't great. They lost at Tampa pretty big. Had a struggle in New Orleans. There were a few other games that just, things weren't kind of quite cooking, but. By this point, a year ago is when they really started making their move, and you could see that same thing happening. I mean, obviously the Giants have kind of fallen off now after they kind of had a little ripple there, and the Cowboys, who knows what to make of them, Commanders with their issues. It feels like they're steamrolling toward another division title, and if they get a game in Philly or more than one, that's still a pretty daunting place you have to go into.
Would be the first repeat NFC East winner since they did it during the 2004 season with Andy Reid.
Covering that division, I covered that division 2004 to like 2012, and every year was a new champ. Crazy.
Real quickly on the Eagles, what's the deal with A.J. Brown? There's no chance they're going to move him next week, right?
I mean, I don't think so. I don't know that I could say definitively 100% no, but boy, it would just be so tough to do. Had they split the last few games or not looked as good or lost bows or whatever, could I see something dramatic happen? With Howie Roseman running the show, anything's possible. Just as dramatic as that draft day trade bringing Brown in was, you could also say that there was a world where that was possible. I don't think that's really the direction they're heading right now, but you never know. I think they probably feel like, look, if we legitimately feel like we have a Super Bowl title in us, and we're not getting back a tantamount kind of talent, some kind of receiver who can do what he does, it'd be hard to pull the trigger.
How good are the Patriots?
Yeah, early in the season, it was kind of ugly. Penalties, turnovers, and you thought, boy, this is a Mike Vrabel team, huh? I mean, he was sort of billed as the non-Belichick, right? The disciplined coach, the hard-nosed guy. Yes, he's a former player. Yes, he's been in that locker room. But this didn't feel like a guy who was just going to stroll in and kind of rest on his accomplishments and, assume that everybody would respect him. So it did feel like a from the ground up kind of operation. But it's gone so quickly. Now, the schedule's helped them, obviously, but you've seen Drake May really kind of flourish the last 4 or 5 games. He's been excellent. Every week, there's been at least one receiver who stepped up, whether it's Diggs or Booty or whoever. The tight ends have played well recently. They've managed the pressure situation. May's been hit a lot, sacked a lot. They've managed an inconsistent run game, and they've managed the defense that has given up some chunks of pass yards. But through that process, they've cut out the turnovers by and large. I think you had one last week. They've made big plays on special teams. The penalties are way down. So it's becoming that Vrabel team. And that's what they wanted last year with Jared Mayo. It didn't happen. It became obvious that wasn't going to work. this was the move that everybody, I think, wanted Robert Kraft to make 2 years ago, and it's really starting to pay off. And boy, other than the Atlanta, look at the next few games. Not that challenging.
I thought, and I watched a lot of that game Sunday, I thought that was impressive. Everybody's talking about Drake May right now, and he took an absolute beating, and I think he's been sacked more than any quarterback in the league other than Cam Ward.
Correct.
And he threw a bad pick to that rookie from UCLA early in the game, but the way he bounced back against truly one of the great defenses. Look, eventually those defenses wear down if your team can't score to keep you in the game. I think everybody understands that. But I thought in some ways, given the 5 sacks and the under duress and the rough start, that may have been his most impressive game.
Yeah, especially that third quarter, when it was a 9-7 game. It was just like, boy, who knows? This thing could tilt quickly. And, they lost to the Raiders in week 1 at home. This is how far
that tells you what a fool's gold week, situation it is week 1 every year, right? Week 1 means nothing.
It does. I know. And we all make these grand proclamations and everything. And I think I poo-pooed the Patriots pretty hard that week. But to see them come through and may have that kind of equanimity, if you will, like things are going bad. No problem. We got this. In Buffalo, that was a great performance too. He's got it.
All right. What do you think of our team right now? I want people out. We obsess over the, every granular detail with every game and every press conference. What does somebody who covers the league as well as you do think right now? What do you think of Washington?
Yeah, it's obviously, hard not to look at the 3 straight losses. And, the Bears one was such a tough one to swallow, given that it felt like there was a clear path for them to win that one. In Dallas, that was obviously kind of a defensive debacle. And the way they came out the other night, I thought, okay, Dan's just got a way of motivating his guys, and he's going to squeeze the most out of this defense, and they'll empty the playbook and all that. But just, you can't afford that Debo drop early in the game. You can't afford those little kinds of mistakes like that. And I thought Marcus did everything he possibly could, at least early on, to try to buoy the ship. And I don't know. We'll see. How much better can this defense get by the end of the season? I think that's a big question now. I'm not saying they can't beat Seattle or Detroit. It's possible, but I would think those are 2 pretty big challenges right there that could either lift the tide and you say, wow, okay, now we're back, right? And assuming Jaden's there and can go and is healthy and everything, we know what kind of effect he can have over this team. And obviously Sunday would be a little easier, given that it's at home. But yeah, I just although then again, you look at the Seahawks. What are they? They're 10-1 under Mike McDonald on the road too. So even a home game against them is going to be a challenge. It's just, I pumped the brakes on the Commanders a little bit in the preseason. I was higher on them last year, but I didn't know obviously the injury stuff and everything. But this is still year 2 in a rebuild. I know that sounds crazy to say, but there's still an aspect of them overachieving last year. And progress is rarely linear.
Give me the situation with Baltimore and the way they handled the Lamar Jackson injury last week, and if there's going to be any repercussions.
Obviously, the timing of it felt less than optimal, right? Given the NBA stuff that was going on. I'm only laughing because it just, it's become such a massive story across sports. So any kind of perception of, like, as if, any sort of sense that they were toying with the rules or playing fast and loose or whatever, that's gonna draw some magnified attention, I think. And I don't know, because it's hard to know exactly what their intentions were and what they did and what they didn't do, but sounds like something of an honest mistake in that Lamar was running scout team and they kind of felt like that was considered a full practice, even if it wasn't. I think a lot of these questions will be put to bed if Lamar comes out and plays well. I know it has nothing to do with the gambling aspect or the suspicions over what happened, but assuming there wasn't anything terribly nefarious about what they did, maybe this story goes away. But if there is, there's going to be a lot of eyes peering in on them, and rightfully so, given what's going on.
They're the favorite right now. I'm sure you know this, Eric. They're the favorite to win the AFC North. Do you think they're going to win it?
If you look at their schedule, it lines up pretty well. I mean, it's no given, right? And there were obviously some rumors swirling around about Lamar's health, and is he ready to go? And why start him here, not Sunday? Okay, fine, I don't know, but they win this one. They could probably win at Cleveland and Minnesota, rather. They got the Jets after that, I believe. The Bengals, who knows what shape they'll be in. I mean, they could be 5-5 by the end of November, before November's done. That right there, and given the fact that the Steelers couldn't keep that hammer lock on the division, it felt like they were in, clear pole position there for a minute. Obviously, I think everyone's just sort of thinking, historically, they've done it before. They're getting Lamar back. The defense has played better the last 2 games. There's some open road in front of them here now. I wouldn't be shocked at all by that.
Give me a team right now that you think people are sleeping on. And you actually moved the team that I think people are sleeping on you had a big move with them up in your power rankings, but I want to hear who you think people are sleeping on right now.
Yeah, it wasn't a week where a lot of people moved, obviously, but
yeah, because of favorites.
That's a tough one. I mean, obviously, besides the Ravens and Patriots, I don't know that. That's a great question. I don't know that there's.
You wrote that they've got the best defense in football, and I think maybe next to Cleveland's, it's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably
Houston.
That's it. It's got to be the Texans. And I was a big C.J. Stroud believer coming out of college. His rookie year was great. Last year was a step back. I'm starting to see that same confidence in him emerge.
Me too.
A little bit. And it stems from the protection, Kevin. You know that. I didn't want to just blame the offensive line every week, but it was starting to become a little bit ridiculous. Last week was great. The game against the Ravens was great. They've now strung some games together where you felt like if they can put up 24
against
points,
the 49ers, you mean? They beat the 49ers.
Right. But again, a couple before that.
Oh, yeah. When they hammered the Ravens. I'm sorry, yes.
That was the start, I think, of the – yeah, right. But, yeah, I mean, what did Kyle Shanahan say? They kicked our you-know-what.
Yeah.
And that's what we've wanted to see. The game in Seattle was interesting because they kept creating opportunities for themselves and couldn't score. But
exactly.
More often than not, we've seen them come through in these situations. So, yeah, they're dangerous. There's no doubt. Even at 0-3, I was like, I can't put them much lower than 22 in the power rankings because I know they're better than most of these teams. So, yeah, that's probably the one that I would have to pick.
Yeah, what is the deal with Mixon? Is he? I forget. Is he done for a while? Where is he right now?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. Honestly. I haven't heard an update on him.
It's
recently.
okay.
I mean, Woody Marks has stepped in and
Chubb
has helped out. It's been at least a good buoy.
That team plays Denver this week, and they still have 2 left with the Colts and 2 left with the Jags, I think. Maybe it's 1 left with the Jags. But that's an interesting game. They beat the 49ers like a drum on Sunday, and they've got Denver coming in. I think Houston's dangerous too. Trade deadline, we're less than a week away. Give me, the big targets and who you think makes big moves.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the teams that would love to make the moves would be like the Bills, I mean, given that they could use a receiver, they probably could use a DB. Ed Oliver's out now, but they're so stricken by their cap space right now. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I think wide receiver and cornerback are 2 positions you'll see some movement at. I've heard Rashid Shaheed is a possibility. Obviously, you wonder if somebody big like Garrett Wilson would be available. The Jets have supposedly at least answered the phone when people have called about some of their bigger players, Quinnen Williams and such. But I don't know. I mean, that's. I think there's going to be plenty of activity. The question is whether there's going to be that, I don't know, say Micah Parsons level move, but a major trade. Like a clear Pro Bowl level player swapping teams, a la Von Miller a few years ago. That was a big one for the Rams. I don't know that we'll quite see that, but I think DB, pass rusher, and wide receiver are the three positions that may end up being the most active movers.
And the Saints, would the Saints move Olave? Shaheed maybe, but Olave?
I don't know. They were talking extension at one point.
Yeah.
He's a tricky one to figure out. If you want to evaluate your second round quarterback who was just so Sunday, but he's going to be the starter, Tyler Shuck.
Yep.
Taking both of his receivers away would probably not give you a whole lot of answers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mickey does things his way.
Last one, and maybe you don't have an answer to this because you're just not in that mode yet, but Eric is the lead NFL draft writer for NFL.com. The quarterbacks have shifted significantly in terms of the projections for next April. Do you have a feel for the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the draft or not?
Well, yeah, it depends, right? Obviously on who comes out and everything. But I don't know that a lot of people who are casual fans of the draft would have known a lot of these names just because transfer portal, right? There's different things, the Fernando Mendoza going to Indiana,
right,
and really opening up his possibilities. Maybe he's quarterback 1. Maybe Dante Moore is another transfer up at Oregon. Ty Simpson, he's only got like 7 games under his belt, so I don't want to push it too far, but Alabama's QB is good. That dude,
he's good.
He's one that I'll be fascinated on. Maybe he stays, and I kind of hope he does in some respects. And then you have kind of the question marks, the mystery guy, Lenora Sellers, good, bad, good, bad. He's a tough one to figure out. But there's some depth at quarterback. Again, not knowing how many of these guys declare, I suspect we'll have 3 or 4 that we'll end up talking about in that first round discussion, maybe. But yeah, it's shaping up where teams like the Jets and others who are in need of a quarterback might end up being mostly happy, I think. I don't know if there's a superstar, but I think there's a lot of decent options.
As always, really appreciate the time. Thanks for doing this. Hope you're well.
Sure. Yeah, you too, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Eric Edholm, everybody. We'll talk some baseball World Series, especially about Game 3 the other night that went for 6 hours, 39 minutes next.
Los Angeles. Freeman sends a fly ball to center field. Varsho's going back before the clock strikes me. Freeman has ended it. It's a repeat hero with the last word of the Game 3 Classic.
It was 3-something in the morning, East Coast time, when Freddie Freeman went deep in the 18th of Game 3. 6 hours and 39 minutes of what will likely go down as one of the all-time greatest postseason games in any sport. It was that good. It was that riveting. Mark Zuckerman, because I texted with him, stayed up, and I did too. I think the only reason I stayed up is because I was working after the football game, and I flipped it on, and I just stayed with it. You've covered the sport forever. Zuck, of course, covers the Nats for Masson. You can follow Mark on X on Twitter at Mark Zuckerman. You can read all of his sports, all of his Nats coverage at massonsports.com. He does a podcast with Galdi, the Nats Chat podcast that you can get anywhere. I mean, this is your sport. Where does this one go down all time?
Yeah, for just one individual game, yeah, it's way up there. The first World Series I covered was 2001 Diamondbacks-Yankees, which had 3 of the all-time games. You have the Yankee comebacks in the bottom of the 9th at Yankee Stadium, and then the ultimate Diamondbacks comeback in the 9th inning of Game 7. And so I've always felt like that was the pinnacle. Certainly for the whole series and the way that Game 7 ended, but one individual game, and it's not just that it went 18. I watched that one in 2018 when the Dodgers and Red Sox went 18 innings.
Right.
And this was different because, as you said, it was tense. It was taut. There were so many incredible moments along the way. Great defensive plays, unexpected pitching performances, clutch hits from superstars on both teams. It really was riveting. And I think the last couple of innings were dragging. Maybe it's just because I was falling asleep, like I'm sure everyone else was, and just ready for it to end. But it really did live up to all you could hope it would be. And I think, has taken what was already in my mind a very compelling World Series between these two teams, took it to another level. And I was very glad to see the Blue Jays bounce back last night, because that guarantees that things go in at least 6 games. I hope it goes 7. I think it's been that good. I think these two teams are worthy of a 7-game classic.
I'm just curious because I was starting to think about this. It's West Coast, so it's not super, it's after midnight West Coast time. But if that game had been on the East Coast and it continued into the 21st, 22nd inning and we're at 5-something a.m., they would it's going to keep going until it ends, right?
Yeah, no, there's no mechanism unless it rains. There's no mechanism. There's no curfew or anything like that. I guess the saving grace is that the pitch clock helped slow it, speed it up a little bit. The 18-inning game pre-pitch clock was over 7 hours. This was like 6:40, something like that. The one, I'm glad it didn't come to this, but they were close. We were a couple of innings away from position players pitching. And that's, of course, the last thing you would ever want to see happen in a World Series game. Now, remember, during the season now, you have the automatic runner in extra innings on second base. And that has prevented any game from coming close to going this long. It becomes much easier to score. Most games are over in the 10th or 11th. That doesn't apply in the postseason, and I'm glad it doesn't. I think
it should.
Glad it doesn't.
It's too gimmicky. That would be awful.
Exactly. It would be like a hockey shootout instead of letting them play the full overtime. But you do run the risk of something like we saw the other night, where if somehow that thing kept going, you're going to get into a weird spot where you're out of pitchers, guys are exhausted. What is the quality of the baseball going to look like? Thankfully, we didn't get there, and it lived up to it all. But we were pretty close to that thing turning, in a different direction.
I felt that there was one moment that was as edge of your seat as any moment during those extra innings, and I'm wondering if you agree with me. And it is when Clayton Kershaw came in the top of the 12th with the bases loaded and 2 outs, and just had to get 1 out, and the count went full. There were 2 foul balls with a full count. One of them I thought was high and out of the zone against Luke's. but I felt like the collective baseball universe was on the edge of its seat praying that Kershaw would get this out. What do you think?
Yeah, 100% that was it. And look, at that point, we've already had a game in which Ohtani has homered twice. Vladdy Guerrero has done some incredible things. But you could see it building up to that because they kept showing Kershaw in the bullpen. Well, look, what you got to understand is he's one of the last guys they have in the bullpen. He's not the great Clayton Kershaw right now. He pitched one other time in this postseason against the Phillies and got lit up. And the fear was, oh my God, is that going to be the final appearance of his career? He's already said he's retiring at the end of this year. And so he's on the roster, but I think the thought was, well, maybe we'll find a blowout game. We can put him in, let him have a nice moment at Dodger Stadium. No, they needed him in the ultimate situation. Absolutely edge of your seat because you're watching this thinking to yourself, there's a good chance this is it for him. This is the final appearance of his career. It's the highest leverage situation you can imagine. No margin for error. And if he gives it up, are we going to remember him for having taken the loss in this epic game? And it was a fantastic battle. I think everybody, unless you're diehard Blue Jays, you're really hoping don't let him be the one to take the loss. But I'll say this, a great at-bat, a great job by Lukes to extend it. The final 3-2 pitch was well out of the zone. If Lukes takes it, it's ball 4, and
it's low. It's close. Yeah, it's low. It's a sink. It was a sinker, right?
Yeah, sinker or slider that was facing down and away from him. And look, if you're Kershaw, like that's how you do pitch. You don't have to be in the zone. You're trying to get chase, and it looks like it's going to be a strike till it darts down there. I guess thankfully Luke swung at it and grounded out, and even then it was a close play at first. So yes, that was edge of your seat stuff, and I think everybody, if you care at all about baseball, even if you're rooting for the Blue Jays to win the series, you did not want to see Kershaw fail in that moment.
No, because against the Phillies, they left him in there because they didn't want to burn through pitchers, and he just got absolutely shellacked. And we know that the previous appearance out of the bullpen was 2019 when he got a key batter out and then gave up the back-to-back homers in Game 5 against the Nats. And yeah, that was. And look, it was a dribbler to second. It was a close play, but he got out of there, and it just felt like, thank God, now he can rest comfortably knowing that his career probably just ended with getting a massive out in one of the all-time epic games. Sticking, though, with Game 3, I mean, how do you explain Ohtani's performance? Like for those that didn't watch it, give it to everybody in numbers and then put it in its proper context historically.
Yeah, well, let's break it down to the first half of the game and the second half of the game.
Yeah.
The first half of the game, he goes 4 for 4 with 2 homers and 2 doubles. And that's why what happens in the second half happens. So he has hit homers in this playoffs in the postseason. Remember, he had the 3-homer game in the LCS clincher. What he did in this one, one of the homers off Max Scherzer, I think it was his first homer, comes on a high and tight fastball inside, like it's not a strike, it's a ball. And he turns on it and drives it down the line for home run. And if you watch Max Scherzer's reaction, Max is like, how did he just do that? Like that does not compute in Max's head. Like that's a good pitch. How did this guy just do that? So he does that. Then he comes back later in the game and hits it the opposite way for the home run to left
for the
center.
lead.
That was the game tying homer.
Yeah, game time. They were down. That tied it at 5 apiece, right?
So now every time he comes up the rest of the way, I think it was the 9th inning on, it's a chance where if he hits another one out of the park, game over. So the Blue Jays are saying, we're not going to let him beat us. And so they intentionally walk him 4 straight times, something that done to like Barry Bonds and hardly anybody ever else in the history of the game. And then they finally, in the 17th inning, because Alex Call, of all people, got on base in front of him, they said, well, we're not going to walk the winning run to second base. So we're going to pitch to him, although it was 4 straight balls. They were being very careful. Yeah. So he ends up 4 for 4, 5 walks, 4 of them intentional. He's the first player to reach base 9 times in a game since it was 1940-something. And that's anything. That's not playoffs or World Series. That's any major league game. It ties the record, reaching base 9 times. And I understand that 4 of them they just handed to him, but they handed them to him because he's that good that they would do that. What we're seeing from that, we haven't even gotten him pitching last night. It is otherworldly, and you hear like Derek Jeter and A-Rod and John Smoltz on the broadcast, like they're out of words. There's nothing left to say about this because we've never seen anything like it. And he just keeps rising to the moment and exceeding your wildest expectations of what a modern baseball player can do.
I mean, we haven't even mentioned Freddie Freeman, again, coming up with the, game-winning home run in the 18th. But sticking with Ohtani, so he comes back last night and he's the starting pitcher after this all-time epic 6-hour, 39-minute, 18-inning game in which he makes 9 plate appearances and reaches base 9 times. I guess that was another, you couldn't miss the beginning to watch him pitch. How do you think he pitched overall, given, the circumstances of both teams needing, they had to be exhausted heading into last night's game.
Right. I think under the circumstances, he was fine.
Yeah.
And again, we've set the bar so high that we're almost expecting something, unprecedented again. Well, just the fact that he pitched into the 7th inning of a World Series game 12 hours after what happened the night before is remarkable in itself. The velocity wasn't quite there. He looked a little gassed, I think, at times, and didn't end well. I was a little surprised Dave Roberts let him go back out
for the 7th.
He got through 6. Like, you got to say to yourself, okay, this is fantastic. And I know they're only.
And it happened quickly in the 7th too. I mean, his pitch count, I think, going into it was 90 plus, because I think those first 2 hits were basically in 2 or 3 pitches.
Yeah, it was quick, first 2 batters. And, I understand their bullpen, of course, was gassed from the night before, and it's shaky to begin with, even though they were really good in Game 3. But I do feel like, okay, you just got 6 innings of 2-run ball out of this guy under those circumstances. Be content with that and move on. And so he ends up departing the game, and that we saw what happened with their bullpen. Anthony Bonda, another former national, gave up both of the inherited runs. So he ends up charged with 4 runs. But he did fine. It wasn't the best version of him as a pitcher, but under the circumstances, I don't know how you could ask anybody to be, any better than what he did show to them. But hey, credit to the Blue Jays after a gut punch of the loss the night before, and they're gassed as well. They put together such a good game. They were without George Springer, who got hurt the night before. They continually put together quality at bats. They're relentless. They got the pitching they needed from Shane Bieber and their bullpen. And I've been so impressed watching them. It's not a team I see a lot during the season. Just watching them all month. They are legitimate. They are a worthy champion if they do win this series. I was glad to see them win that game because it does guarantee now at least goes 6.
Yeah, it'll go back to Toronto on Halloween night, Friday night, either up 3-2 or down 3-2. But they've got to face Snell and then Yamamoto in the next 2. It's advantage Dodgers right now, even though they lost last night, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. The Dodgers have the starting pitching. But, again, what the Blue Jays have is just this relentless offensive approach that, they hit home runs, but they also just make contact. And good contact. It's not just weak ground balls. And they can turn, 2 strikes, 2 outs. They can string a rally together. It doesn't matter to them. They've gotten to this reason they've gotten to this point for a reason. They are absolutely legitimate. Yes, the Dodgers probably the biggest advantage in the series is the eliteness of their rotation when everybody is good. And Snell has been fantastic, and Yamamoto obviously threw a complete game the other day.
Yeah.
If the Blue Jays, in your mind, you're saying, hey, win one of these 2, force a Game 7. Who knows what happens then? It lines up for Max Scherzer to start Game 7 if we get there, which would be something. And here's my other one. If we get there, they haven't really brought it up, but if we get to a Game 7, how about Ohtani out of the bullpen to close it out?
Oh, my God. Well, look, if we have another epic game, we could get Kershaw again. But real quickly on Yamamoto, the 2 complete games, Snell, are we seeing maybe a change in the thought process, sort of anti-analytics with some of these complete games or not?
It may be specific to their situation where you do have...
Because of the bullpen.
A big combination of a bad bullpen and starters who are good enough to keep going that far. I would love to see more of it in the game. I think it's so much more compelling. I understand why... as a team, you maximize your chances of success by not letting a starting pitcher face hitters 3 times when you've got 4 or 5 relievers who are all throwing upper 90s with ridiculous breaking balls, and you can keep trotting in a new one every inning. But it is interesting in these postseason series, the longer they go, I think the advantage goes away from the relievers because teams have now seen them 3, 4, 5 times. And so in addition to just being tired from throwing that much, you just have a familiarity with them that you maybe wouldn't normally during the season when you don't see guys that often. So there is a case to let a starter go deeper. We know it worked for the Nats in 2019, kind of similar situation, bad bullpen, great rotation. It's the way the Dodgers are built. I would love to see it become more a part of the game, but I understand why the state of the game right now sort of, precludes you from doing that on a regular basis.
By the way, watching Yamamoto through these playoffs, there's something really compelling about watching him. The way he is able to go just like pinpoint, you watch the catcher put the target up, he hits it every single time. Who's his like historical comp? Because he's pitching lights out in the postseason right now.
Yeah, wow, that's a good question. Like somebody who's that good right from the start.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, you think of like a Steven Strasburg or a Paul Skeens who's currently doing it. Obviously, they didn't get the chance to do it on the big stage like this right away. And the difference is, they were held back, and still, in Skeens' case, still kind of is being held back where you're not allowed to go 7, 8, 9 innings at that young stage of your career. What people need to understand about Yamamoto, was very young coming out of Japan, but he got the biggest free agent contract ever given to a pitcher before he ever threw a pitch in America. Like, let's understand what that is. The Dodgers, I understand they have all the money in the world and they can afford to make mistakes, but they took a major gamble on this without any true evidence of how good he was going to be, other than how he had performed in Japan, and he has lived up to it. At the time, I remember thinking, this is crazy. How can you guarantee a guy $300 million who's never thrown one pitch in the major leagues before? They did it. He has lived up to it. And on a team with so many superstars who draw all the attention, he's right there with them. And by the way, from the other night, he was warming up to pitch the 19th inning 2 days after a complete game.
That was insane. Crazy. Like you said, just to avoid position players. If it had come to that look, the game would have ended eventually because there would have been some scoring. We went 11 innings without any runs produced after the Ohtani game-tying home run in the 7th. But what a game! What a series! Best 2 out of 3. So who do you have? Who are you picking?
Well, like you said, the Dodgers, if you look at the Snell and Yamamoto factor, if they can close out these next 2, that's great. If it gets to Game 7, though, I do like the Blue Jays at that point. At home, you know what that crowd is going to be like, the chance to bat last, of course. And they've got this, like, magic element to them. And it's not even just magic. I mean, it's a really, really good team that they have put together. And so if they can find a way to steal one of these next 2, I like them in Game 7 if it gets to that point.
What are we waiting on Nats wise?
Manager.
Manager. So where are they right now?
It's been quiet, and I say quiet only in that there hasn't been a lot reported. I think there is stuff going on. You got to remember it's a new front office, and they're keeping things under wraps. And unfortunately for those of us who cover the team, we don't have the relationships yet to maybe develop the sources that help us understand what's going on. We know a few names. Brandon Hyde, the former Orioles manager. We know Miguel Cairo is interviewed. Craig Albernaz, who the Orioles just hired, is another one they did look at. I'm sure they've looked at more. I would guess we're about a week away, maybe 2 weeks from them naming a manager. I think it's an important hiring, of course, but my hunch would be is that it's a first-timer and that really in the end, given where they're at right now, the hiring of Paul Taboni, president of baseball operations, to me is a more important hire than who the manager is right now, because I think this is going to be run a different way where the GM, de facto GM at president of baseball operations is really calling the shots a lot, and the manager sort of working in conjunction with him. So I don't necessarily expect it to be a big name guy that we've heard of before, probably a first timer who shares a similar philosophy to Taboni. Not to say it's not important. It is, of course, important who your manager is. But I think given the massive change they've undergone, the guy at the top of the organization, I think, matters more in this case.
Thanks for doing this. Enjoy the rest of it. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it. Thanks, Kevin.
Mark Zuckerman, everybody. We'll do some NFL buy and sell, and there's some NFL news that is out there. Dan Quinn will carry when he meets the media later next hour. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Here's what's happening. Some breaking news out of the NFL world. Aiden Hutchinson agrees to a 4-year extension with the Lions worth up to $180 million and contains $141 million in guarantees. Plus, last night, the Blue Jays, they even the series and the World Series to tie the series at 2-2 apiece and a win over the Dodgers that was spurred by a Vlad Guerrero Jr. 2-run shot early. Then some small ball late from the Jays to balloon their lead 6-1. Dodgers get one back in the ninth, but Louis Varland able to close it out for Toronto. Final score 6-2. Game 5 underway tonight. The final game from Dodger Stadium this season at 8 p.m. Plus, the Wizards, they held a nearly 20-point lead in the third quarter, but the Sixers able to chip away at that lead with another poor defensive performance down the stretch from Washington. Wizards fall 139-134, and the Caps lose 1-0 last night in Dallas off a very weird bounce that made it past Logan Thompson. Again, Caps fall 1-0. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980. Hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
All right, what are we buying? What are we selling? If you want to get on with us at 301-230-0980 and give us a team or a player or something else that you are buying and something you're selling, have at it. Phone lines are open. I'm going to start with what I discussed with Eric Edholm. I'm buying the Houston Texans. I think they're the best defensive team in the league, not named Cleveland. And with Cleveland, obviously, you get that situation where the defense is so great typically for a half, but when your offense isn't scoring and you keep taking the field every 35 seconds, eventually you get worn down. Houston's a good football team, man. I watched a lot of this game against the 49ers. I had that game up because I bet that game. I gave Houston out, and I was watching New England because I had the other side of New England. That did not work out. They pummeled the 49ers. They are the number one defense in the NFL per the traditional number of yards allowed. Per DVOA, they are currently the fourth-ranked defense in the NFL behind Detroit, the Rams, and Seattle. By the way, Denver's fifth. Washington has, in their next 3 out of their next 4 games, they're going to play 3 of the best 5 defenses in the NFL. But, I mean, the 49ers, what do they like to do? Run the football? How about Christian McCaffrey, 8 carries for 25 yards? It was a complete and utter shutdown. You know, they did a lot of that to Seattle. They just couldn't score in the Monday night game before that. They did it to the Ravens. The Ravens are banged up. I like Houston, man. I love this team right now. I'm a CJ Stroud guy. I think the step back last year was more about his offensive line. He ended up playing well, you know, in the postseason, played well in that game at Arrowhead when they had a shot in the divisional round after they knocked off the Chargers in the wild card round. They've got a stretch coming up here, though. Denver at home, Jacksonville at home, the next 2. Very interesting games, and will really be tells on what they'll end up doing, because they're a 3-4 football team right now. But in that division, they still have both of their games with Indianapolis. They have this 1 game left with Jacksonville, but they play Denver, they play Buffalo, they play Kansas City, they play the Chargers. They have a brutal schedule because they were a division winner last year. I think they're coming, though, man. Houston's going to be a very difficult team, and I don't know if they get Joe Mixon back or not. The rookie Woody Marks has actually played pretty well, Max. He's a pretty good back. You know, he came out of SC, right? He was an SC mid-round pick. I like Houston. I am buying a lot of Houston. I think even though Indy is 7-1 in that division, I think they're going to make it interesting, and I definitely think that they could, you know, make a run to a potential wild card berth before the end of the year. Houston dominant defensively with great players, Will Anderson, etc. But Stroud really starting to play well. By the way, great off schedule and good as a runner. He's an underrated runner. Houston Texans, I am buying. What are you buying?
So I'm going to buy, and this is already something that's kind of cheap right now, Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to break the LaDainian Tomlinson rushing touchdown record of 28 behind that Colts offensive line.
So LT's got the record at 28, huh?
Yeah.
For rushing touchdowns.
And right now, Taylor is sitting at what, 10 or 12, I believe? He's got 12 touchdowns rushing right now.
They're okay.
A third of the way through the
season. It'd be a 17-game record if he breaks it.
It's true. This is true. But the screenshots and just the film that I've been watching of the Colts offensive line, it's like Moses parting the Red Sea. It's insane how big these holes are. Jonathan Taylor, like I could probably get 3 yards of carry behind this offensive line. And when you pair him together with an elite running back like Jonathan Taylor, sky's the limit, if not more.
That's interesting. Do you know that Riggins once in 1983 became the all-time rushing touchdown? I think he broke Jim Brown's record. I think he did. May have been Jim Brown. It could have been Walter Payton's. But anyway, 28 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor's having an unbelievable season. I am selling the Baltimore Ravens from making that run to a division title that they are currently favored to make. I just don't see it defensively. You know, losing Matabuke, They're not good defensively. They've just lost too many players. They have, I think, 6 players from their defense on injured reserve. It's like some insane number. And look, they play, Miami and Minnesota and Cleveland coming up. And I think the Jets, I think Eric, pointed out their schedule. Actually, let me pull it up real quickly because it was an easy next stretch. At Miami tomorrow night, at Minnesota, at Cleveland, 3 straight road games that they certainly will have a chance to win. Then the Jets at home before they get into Bengals, Steelers, Bengals, Patriots, Packers, Steelers. I think that Pittsburgh's going to end up winning the division with like a 9-8 record, the AFC North. And their defense is terrible too. The AFC North, long known for great defensive teams. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Baltimore have 3 of the worst defenses in the NFL. Cleveland has the best or the second best with Houston, but they can't score. But I'm selling Baltimore from making the postseason as a division winner or, anything else. I don't see the run with that defense. What are you selling?
So this is my first sell. This is a big sell because it came across my timeline yesterday and hit me in the chest like a shotgun blast. I am selling Hall of Famers responding to fans via Twitter DMs because Bobby Wagner, let me start from the beginning. If you remember a few weeks ago, Joe Witt at his press conference was asked and said something about players looking at social media and letting that affect them. So some disgruntled fan posted 4 screenshots of Bobby Wagner chasing down Bijan Robinson, CeeDee Lamb, Tucker Kraft, and Rashee Rice. Bobby Wagner, then it was quote tweeted by a fan, and Bobby got into that fan's DMs and said, quote,
"Oh no,
2 of those aren't even my plays." I went back, watched all 4 of them.
How do you know he got it? So the fan posted the DMs?
The fan posted the DM, and people were accusing him of photoshopping it. So he went and posted a screen recording of it to prove that it wasn't photoshopped, and it all checked out. So,
Bobby,
get off the
don't
phone.
Respond to fans on social media. You know better than that. You're 47 years old. You're an adult. You know better than that. Don't do that. It's so defensive. Man. You don't need to apologize for anything. You're the best tackler on the team. I mean, he was tackling like a monster the other night. And by the way, physically tackling people, he can't cover. We understand that. He can't cover, and they're targeting him. They're trying to get him into coverage. But Bobby Wagner doesn't need to apologize for anything. He's the smartest player on their defense. He's their best tackler on defense. They would suck even more on first and second down without him. He can't cover at this age. Okay, we understand that. By the way, no one else can cover on their team. It's not like they're keeping guys on the bench that are lockdown coverage guys. Don't respond to people, Bobby Wagner, on social media. And maybe he thought DMing it, there would be some level of confidentiality and he'd be helping the guy out. I don't know. But you got to understand, 6 out of 10 minimum of these dudes are just praying you will respond so that they can turn it into a big deal for themselves. That's a good sell. That's your best sell of the year.
And so far, man, I shout out Brian because he sent it to me, and I had to do some digging, man. But my God, when I found out it was real, it hurt. It hurt me deeply.
Oh man. I am going to buy something else. I'm just going to buy that this Joe Flacco with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase thing is just going to keep working on offense. I mean, there's, the Jets are a bad team, but they're not terrible defensively. They've got some guys on defense. I mean, it was another Flacco's never had it better. Never. And by the way, he's making other guys good. the Noah Fants, who he played with in Denver. The dude Tanner Hudson, nobody had ever heard of him. He's got a couple of touchdowns already. They're running the football because they're such a threat to throw the football downfield. And you've got to now respect the quarterback and the receivers. Samaje Perine, remember, our team drafted Samaje Perine. He's actually had a pretty nice career, post-Washington in those years here. He had the run in Cincinnati, then he was in Kansas City, then he was back here, back in Cincinnati. He looks good. Chase Brown looks good. The Bengals are going to keep scoring. They're going to just keep putting up huge fantasy numbers. Jamar Chase, I think we mentioned this on Monday when we went around the NFL. In the last 2 games, he's been targeted as a wide receiver 42 times. 23 times against Pittsburgh, 19 times against the Jets. He has 28 catches. He's got 4 drops, by the way, in those 2 games. 4 just flat out drops. So his numbers would be even better. But Cincinnati offensively, that's going to be a crushing loss for them because they'd be at 4-4, a half game out of first, with like the Bears, I think, coming into town this week with a chance to potentially be in first place in the division. They're not out of this thing because anybody that can score the way they're going to be able to score is going to be an interesting team. They're just so bad on defense. Man, that division, like I said, amazing, right? Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati among the worst defensive teams in the NFL. They are terrible. Cincinnati per DVOA, number 32 in defense in the NFL. Baltimore, 23 defensively. Pittsburgh, 22. Their rank in the NFL. Just some horrible defensive teams, which, if you're Cincinnati, you're like, if we can keep putting up 30 plus a game, we might get to 8 or 9 wins and have a chance to win a bad division. You buying anything else or selling anything else?
I got one more buy for you. So the Saints made a decision at quarterback over the week, and now Tyler Shuck is starting. I am buying the guy that they benched. Buy Spencer Rattler right now. He didn't play too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't great, obviously. But at the same time, I don't think that Garrett Nussmeier's dad or Scott Tolzien are doing him many favors. I mean, Scott Tolzien, he was the Cowboys quarterback coach well after Dak kind of already, figured things out and stamped himself as a pro, and then left Dallas to come to join Kellen Moore's staff in New Orleans. But I think that if you put Spencer Rattler on, give him a competent coaching staff, put him on a team where actual weapons are kind of surrounding him and not a terrible offensive line and just like Chris Olave sometimes, I think Spencer Rattler could prove to be a useful quarterback in this league. Who knows, man? Maybe McVay. What do you think McVay would do with a guy like Rattler? I think he'd turn him into something.
Yeah, the thing about Rattler is that he plays kind of small, like not Kyler Murray small necessarily. I'm not
Baker
talking about
small.
I'm sorry?
Like Baker small?
Yeah, Baker plays big. The release is high.
He plays
Spencer Rattler,
now.
when you watch him, plays a little bit small. But I got to tell you what, you're not wrong. And I think we've talked about him. Like he's got gamer in him. Yeah. He'll make some bad throws. He'll take some bad sacks, but he is absolutely unafraid and will let it rip. And he can throw it. He can definitely throw it. I think people know this about Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler, in his college career, started off at Oklahoma, ended up at South Carolina. There are stories about the lack of intangibles with Spencer Rattler that are legendary among people that cover college football. It just was never a fit. Like, he just was a difficult teammate in a lot of circumstances and very, very fond of himself. Just ask him. But he can play. And, he's now 25, not 20 anymore. And maybe he has grown up. I think that there is something about a guy like him, 3 years from now, could he be in Los Angeles and Sean McVay's turned him into a, a really good NFL quarterback. He's got some talent. He can sling it for sure. If you guys want to weigh in, 301-230-0980. We'll open up phone lines. What are you buying, NFL? It's a team. It's a player. What are you selling? It can be about our team if you want. NFL buy and sell. Phone lines are open, 301-230-0980. Remember, all of our conversations on this show about football and about the NFL specifically are presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. All right, NFL buy and sell, your shot at doing it. I did just real quickly want to read something that I was just reading during the break to all of you before I get to your calls. This came from Dr. Ed. Dr. Ed is like, basically the show's documentarian. Like, he remembers every single thing that everybody says and comes back years later to remind everybody. And he wrote, "Hey, Kevin, after this latest Skins beatdown by the Chiefs, I thought it would be fun to revisit your comments about Mahomes and Andy Reid from Mahomes' first season as a starter back in 2018. At the time, you were disgusted that the Monday Night Football broadcast, complaining that Joe Tessitore, by the way, did Tessitore call Monday night games? Did he?
Yeah, he did it with Booger.
Yeah. God, he was. I can't do Tessitore.
Really?
I just can't do Tessitore. Every play is like the final play of the Super Bowl. But anyway, he said at the time you were disgusted that at the Monday Night Football broadcast, complaining that Joe Tessitore acted like Mahomes was already a Hall of Famer. You said, let's pump the brakes. He's good, but he's not there yet. You also said Mahomes wouldn't win the MVP that year, but he did. And then came the classic Andy Reid take. You called him a creative offensive mind and a good quarterback coach, 2 cuts above Jay Gruden, but limited. You said Reid always messes up timeouts and mismanages the clock. Tom even jumped in with, you're not getting to the Super Bowl with Andy Reid. Well, fast forward a few years later, and both of those guys have punched their tickets to Canton. And while Jaden had the best rookie season by a quarterback, Mahomes' first year of play stands as the greatest debut season by any quarterback in NFL history. Just thought it would be fun to remind you how that one aged. Thank you, Dr. Ed. Appreciate it. Yeah, I do. Look, I think with Tessitore, first of all, 100% right. In terms of the first year starting, because Marino actually started games in 83, actually started enough games where he was in the MVP consideration. He was so good in his rookie year in 83. 84 was the magical year, 5,000 yards. 3 or 4 quarterbacks had thrown for 4,000, and he throws for 5,000, breaks the touchdown mark with 48, etc. But that was not his first year starting, because he'd come in midway through his rookie year and taken over. Yes, Mahomes' year 2 in Kansas City was the greatest first year of starting we've ever seen. No doubt about that. And it made me think about, the year before, because the year before Alex Smith, and they struggled on offense at times, and Andy Reid didn't pull the trigger. He left Alex Smith in there. They ended up losing to Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans in the wild card round that year. What it would have looked like had he put Mahomes in there late in the year in his rookie year. But yeah, Mahomes' rookie year, 50 touchdowns, 5,097 yards. And if I go back to 2018, I bet you it was a Monday, Tessitore game. Let me see how early in the season the Monday night game was. It was week 4 against Denver. And they won 27-23. That was the Monday night game that they played. Yeah, look, Andy Reid was a mess when it came to clock management. He was still at times, he doesn't get it right. But obviously, when you end up getting that quarterback and it ends up being the quarterback, you're punching your ticket to Canton. So, yes, that did not age well, Dr. Ed. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. As always, I do actually appreciate that you listen so carefully. It's very nice. All right. What are we doing here? We're going back to the phone lines. NFL buy and sell. Let's start with Samaj. What are you buying? What are you selling in the NFL? Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. How you doing, man?
Good, Samaj.
First off, good. First off, Kevin, this is why I've been a fan of yours since God knows the AM days, man. Your humility is just what makes you shine, man. That, and of course, your overall sports acumen.
We're still on AM.
Why well, but you know what I mean. You're worldwide now. You're on the web and all of that. Things have changed, and you have grown, and so is your exposure, and so is your audience. So, and this is all why, dude. You're just incredibly humble, but yet on point. And
thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Anyway,
all right, what are you buying? What are you selling?
Of course. I'm selling, man, Oathberg and Gold OCs. I'm selling both of them. All right. I believe one of you mentioned, and I felt this watching the game, that Quinn.
Wait, you're selling both the OC? You're selling Kingsbury and Witt Jr.
Both of them. And this is why. I don't see complimentary football. And Monday was a classic example that like one of you guys, that Max or you, one of you pointed out that you felt that Quinn got personally involved with the defense for that game. And I believe he did. And that's why we saw what we saw first half. Now, what we saw in the second half, this goes to my problems with Kingsbury. Like you said the other day, we've had sample size. We're beyond sample size now with the whole group at this point, year and a half in. And I'm not impressed, man. I mean, Kingsbury is incredibly creative at times, but he's incredibly puts at times as well. Because there are times, man, where there should be blatant runs and he'll throw the ball. And there's times where he does the opposite. And, you know, you can be creative all you want up and down the field in between the 20s, but when you get in the red zone, you got to score, man, and you got to be on point with your calls. And I just don't see I don't see Kingsbury complimenting the defense when we have struggles or when we're coming to play like Monday. Where was the run game? Dude, it was 7-7 game at halftime. It was 14-7 late in the third. It's like, this is my thing with Kingsbury. I told somebody this other day. If we go down 7 to 10 points, it's like the run game's out the window, just automatically. I don't like that. You know, we've been spoiled by the greatest offense the league has ever seen with Joe Gibbs and Bugle and those guys. And I just, calling me being spoiled, but I know good offense when I see it. I know good play calling when I see it. And I'm not impressed. Give me back my logo.
Keep in mind, okay, that first of all, did you know that in terms of red zone offense this year, Washington's second in the league behind Philadelphia in red zone offense?
I did not know that. And
so their red zone scoring percentage right now, number 2 in the league. They were 6th last year in the NFL. It helps, by the way, when you have your starting quarterback out there and they haven't had him enough. There's no way that I'm selling Cliff Kingsbury. The Joe Witt Jr. thing. Hold on. The Joe Witt Jr. thing, I think that when we get to the end of this year, there will be 20 games from last year, perhaps only 17 from this year, and 37 games, even if the defense went lights out the rest of the way, the majority of those 37 will be bad defense. And I don't know how a coordinator survives that as his resume as a first-time defensive coordinator. So I do think that something will happen there. The only way Cliff isn't here is if he gets a head coaching job in college or in the pros.
I don't want Cliff gone. I just
you sold him.
Needs to mature a little bit. Well,
okay.
But I'm talking about just for the season. Just for the season. I'm not talking about period. Just for the season. Because I like his creativity. I like his quarterback whispering. I love all of that. But I think he gets too deep into his bag. He doesn't know when to simplify things, and he doesn't just want to use just general common sense. 3rd and 2, run the damn ball. We got 3 quality RBs. Our RB room is stout, and I just don't see enough.
Right.
And my thing is, when you got a quarterback like Jaden and he goes down, sometimes, just like in all things in life, struggle exposes character. And sometimes when you use your best players, struggle exposes your coordinators. And I just
what do we think? Here's a question for you. It's Samaj. I'm going to move on. Thanks for the kind words and good call as always. Because I want to get to some others. We got phone lines filled. What do we think about the running back room right now? A few weeks after Krosky Merritt's last decent game, you can blame it on Cliff, I guess. But I just want to. How about the red zone number? I didn't know that. I just pulled it up when he mentioned that because I'm like, are they really terrible red zone this year? No, they're number 2 in red zone scoring percentage in the league behind Philly, actually. And they were top 6 last year in the league. Krosky Merritt is now 3 weeks removed from the 14-carry, 111-yard day. Did have a fumble against the Chargers. And he's gone, 39, that's 94, 39 for 119. He is basically at 2.93 yards per carry in the last 3 games. It's not like he hasn't had opportunities. 17 carries against the Bears, 13 against Dallas, and then he got 9 in the game remember this about the game on Monday night, okay? They had opportunities with the football in the first half. They had a 4.5-minute time of possession advantage in the first half. They ended up losing the time of possession advantage by 8 minutes, which means there was a 12-minute differential in the second half. So basically, it was a lot to a little bit. 12-minute disadvantage in the second half of that football game. That would be 21 minutes to 9 minutes. 21-9. They couldn't get Kansas City off the field. They possessed the football for their first 3 possessions for 29 plays, 250 yards, and 21 points. Here are the drives. You're not going to run the football when you're down 21-7 or 28-7 in the fourth quarter. You're just not. 8 plays, 80 drives, 4 minutes, 48 seconds. 8 plays, 75 yards, 4 minutes, 45 seconds. 13 plays, 94 yards, 7 minutes and 2 seconds. And unfortunately, you got stuck at your 1-yard line after a botched kickoff return on the first opportunity, and then you take the field and you're down 21-7. It's already the fourth quarter. Game context with these conversations means something. They did try to run the football in the first half, and they moved the football. And remember, Cliff uses the quick passing game as an extension of the run game. They also have RPO in their repertoire, which means sometimes it's the quarterback's decision to pull it instead of run it. Let's go to Michael. Michael in Eldersburg. Michael, what are you buying? What are you selling? Go ahead.
Kevin, likewise, I have been a big fan of yours, at least for the last half hour, at least, maybe longer.
Thank you. You know what? I'll take those 30 minutes. Appreciate it.
Good to talk with you again.
Yeah, you too, Michael.
I'm going to start with what I'm buying is just through the eye test. I am buying the Buffalo Bills as the by miles front runner. Well, what I've seen so far, you can tell they're, in my opinion, taking their foot off the pedal when they need to. They are planning for the, 20 games they're going to have to play to win it all. I just see, it just looks like the pedigree of a champion. So I'm buying.
You think
them.
more so than KC right now? We'll find out this weekend. Do you know the Chiefs are favored at Buffalo Sunday?
Okay. It's a 20-game marathon. So likewise, I'm selling.
Are you eating as you're laying out your buy and sell?
Yeah, I was in the Chick-fil-A line. I just finished my spicy sandwich, man.
Okay, well, maybe not take the next bite while you're laying out your. We got your buy barely on Buffalo. What's your sell?
So
I love the spicy chicken sandwich. Love it.
So good.
So good.
I'm selling 2 things. I'm selling the Colts because I'm just not buying the Danny Jones thing. I love the running back. I like a lot of what they're doing, but I'm not buying them as the best team in football right now. And contrary to the first caller, I am selling the Brian Robinson trade. I would have loved for him to be part of this mix right now. I saw some of the stuff with Rodriguez Monday night. I would rather have Brian Robinson than Rodriguez right now with this mix of running backs. I think that would have been a much more effective running attack with that guy. That's what I'm selling.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it and appreciate always, Michael, you calling and enjoy that Chick-fil-A spicy chicken sandwich. Brian Robinson this year in San Francisco, I stopped keeping track of it. So he did have against Atlanta in the win last Sunday night in that pretty, he had 9 carries in the game, 9 for 36 yards. I wonder why he had 9 carries and didn't carry the ball at all Sunday against Houston or the week before. Maybe he was. No, he was active. Yeah, he's not doing much because McCaffrey's healthy and he's having a big year. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's having a huge season this year. I don't know. I feel like it's 6 and 1/2 dozen the other. Obviously Krosky Merritt's not quite yet Walter Payton. Just like, our cornerbacks and our coverage unit, isn't going to be locked down best in the NFL, which we were talking about. Some were talking about, not me, in July. Let me just say, I do like Krosky Merritt. I like his vision. I like the way he runs. I'd like for them to be in position to get him more carries. Yeah. Who else we got? We got Anthony. Anthony, go ahead. What are you buying and what are you selling?
I'm selling that we won't be running the table to win the division. Anything is possible, but it's highly improbable.
Well, that's an easy sell. I mean, they're of course they're not running the table,
right? But
you're just saying that they're not going to win the division. Well, they probably aren't, since currently they're 3 games behind the Eagles.
Right, but I say that to say this.
Okay,
I'm buying that.
You always have a purpose.
Every game, every game from here on out is a playoff game. We need so much help to get to the wild card. We can't afford to lose anything. Even though there's that small percentage that says, yeah, you're not mathematically eliminated yet.
Well, if they win out and go 12-5, they're going to be in the postseason. We understand that.
Well,
right.
Yeah, that's a given. But if they lose even one game, they need so much help. It's such a slippery slope that I don't know. I'm like I said, every game from here on out is a playoff game. So there you go.
Okay, so that's what you were buying, that every game. What are you selling? What are you buying? What's your next feature of this call?
There is no.
Is that it?
I'm selling that we are not winning the division. I'm buying that we are in playoff mode now.
Okay, got it. I agree with the latter and the former. This is, we're not even halfway through the season. We'll reach the actual halfway mark at halftime on Sunday night when they are 8.5 games into their 17-game schedule. But man, it does feel like they have to get this one Sunday night. That a 4-game losing skid, 3-6, 1 NFC win. That came in the opener against the Giants, staring at Detroit and Denver, 2 of the next 3 with Madrid in between. Yeah, I think we're all going to feel a little bit better. And by the way, there will be some context to this as well. Like, win the game with the offense looking like it could get on a roll and be dynamic and be unstoppable like it was at times last year. Because I'm not expecting them to win with their defense on Sunday night. I'm not expecting them to win 13-10. If they win the game, it's going to be 30-27, 34-28, something like that. Let's go to Athen. Athen, what are you buying? What are you selling NFL-wise? Go ahead.
I am buying the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, namely Baker Mayfield, because there's no player in football that has done more with less than him this year, and I still think he should be considered for MVP candidate.
Yep.
And I'm selling the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're a wild card team at best that loses in the first round again. Their defense is old. They need to get younger. I'm not a believer in the Steelers. So that's what I got for you. And unfortunately, Kevin, it's going to be a long 9 weeks of radio for you guys. I feel bad for you because we stink.
Good close to that call, Athen. I appreciate that. Baker Mayfield, it's interesting because, Baker Mayfield, I love Baker Mayfield as a quarterback, but I bet New Orleans on Sunday, so I had that game on one of my screens. And Baker Mayfield was not good in the game. Their defense was awesome in the game. The Bucs, really good defensively. The last 2 games, Baker Mayfield's just been off. He just hasn't looked good, which just tells you even the best quarterbacks, they're not perfect every game. They have moments. They make bad throws. Baker Mayfield's been high, not, literally with his passing. The balls have been flying and sailing on him. But I love Baker Mayfield. The Steelers, before the season, I picked them to win the NFC North, and I said Aaron Rodgers is going to have a good season because he didn't have a bad season last year. and he's having a decent season. He's the reason, really, more than anything else, they're 4-3. Their defense is atrocious, and that's where you get to, defense has such variance year to year. I think everybody felt this year like, okay, if Pittsburgh can get Aaron Rodgers to play at, a high enough level, doesn't need to be elite, but if it's top half of the league quarterbacking with that defense, they're going to be dangerous. Well, he's playing at a very good level, not elite level, but a very good level, and their defense is horrible, and they've lost, giving up 68 points in the last 2 games. They had a 16-7 halftime lead against the Packers, and here come the Colts into town. Let's go to Brad. Brad, what are you buying? What are you selling?
Kevin, what's up?
What's up, Brad?
Hey, I'm buying the Colts being a Super Bowl contender. I know that's I believe in them. I think they have all the elements to do it on all aspects. I am selling, and this is going to get everyone going. I'm selling let Adam cook. Adam is the next best thing as far as front offices go. I'm selling what he has done to make this team younger and better outside of Jayden. Okay, I'm not going to say he didn't do anything to help this team last year. The vets helped, but I'm looking at this roster and I don't see his fingerprint of where they have gotten younger and better and how they're going to help in the future get out of this oldest team in the NFL. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I just this is a problem for me, the anti-Adam Peters stuff. And I'm not saying that you're just anti-Adam Peters. You're just not calling him the next Howie Roseman, which I don't think anybody was. Look, if you take the crazies off social media, the let Adam, cook people off social media, and you have reasonable people conversation, which you are always very reasonable, Brad, as you know, I love your calls. I just don't know how you take last year and just shove it to the side and say, like, it was penny wise, pound foolish somehow. Like last year, when you think about it, all right, I'll go to the drafts in a moment. I don't think you can evaluate drafts, 30 games into the, it's not even 30 at this point, 27 games, 28 games into the evaluation going with the players last year, just 8 games this year. But last year, adding Wagner, Luvu, Ertz, Armstrong, Fowler Jr., Eckler, Noah Brown, Zacchaeus, Chin, Mariota, guys like Ballore and McNichols, special teams wise, all significant and low-cost additions that ended up being instrumental in a 12-5 season. By the way, last year we were raving about Sandra Still and Coleman in addition to Jayden getting it right. Newton and John Baptiste to a lesser extent this year. We can look back on last year's draft and say these were players that were on the verge, and Newton had a very good game the other night. By the way, Coleman came in and played very well. The Lattimore trade is the one for me that I'm ready to say that it was a bad trade. I was wrong too, because I lauded it in the moment. The Lattimore trade, they got wrong, but it happens on occasion. The McManus and the kicker situation has been a bit of a botch. They couldn't anticipate the McManus thing. Maybe they could have. Maybe they could have done better due diligence. But when I look at the 20 months of Adam Peters, consider what the situation looked like when he got here, I have a hard time giving him anything but A-, B+. Worst case. Is Brad still there?
No, Brad dropped off.
Oh. This is a conversation that is just way too premature on the draft side. But if you want to say, hey, man, that's fine, okay, I'm not ready to write off, Luke McCaffrey or Sinnott or Newton or Sandra Still or Coleman or, and I'm certainly, how can you write off at this point, Kane, you guys had Krosky, Merritt, and Trey Amos as Rookie of the Year candidates 4 weeks ago. I think they were drafted. If you want to say he got too bold and too hungry too quickly off of a year that broke right in every way, shape, and form, including the schedule, injuries, and otherwise. A Hail Mary throw in there, all of the things that we know about last year. And he shouldn't have traded away 8 picks for 3 players. I'd say to you, certainly he shouldn't have traded away in hindsight the picks for Lattimore. But the picks for Tunsil, I think, were a worthy investment into your quarterback and into your quarterback's future. Tunsil's going to be around here for a while, and he can play. And the Debo thing is very low risk for significant reward. Look, they're 3-5. You could argue without him, they might be 2-6. Like he was significant in the 3 wins. So I look at the 20 plus, what do we have? 20 games last year, 8 games, 28 games, 20 months into this, 21 months into this. I don't know how you look at the job that Adam Peters and company have done and give them, a bad grade. It's just hard for me to do that or even fathom that. Let's finish it up with Paulie. Paulie, what are you buying? What are you selling?
Hell to the W, man.
Yeah.
Let me add on to that real quick. But you're right what you're saying, especially with the draft picks. But they got to make a commitment to these draft picks. It's time to make the commitment to them to really overhaul this roster.
Okay, so tell me what to do. Tell me what he should be doing that he's not, that Quinn isn't doing with Adam Peters' draft picks. They're all playing.
But they're not all prime starters. They all spot.
Connerly is, Amos is, Lane is right now. Krosky Merritt is just from this draft.
Listen, okay, but what I'm saying, you need to play all these. Newton need to be playing all the time.
He is playing.
He's playing spot playing. He's in rotation. He needs to play. That's the only way to change over this roster. Listen, I always hear you say that the cupboard was bare. Yeah, the cupboard was bare. It was, but that don't mean you fill the cupboard with food that's about to expire. And that's what you do this year.
That's a good one. That is a good one. But here's the thing. Does Josh Johnson really count as food that's about to expire? He brings up the average age more than anybody does. He's a third-string quarterback.
Yeah, but Wagner and Zach Ertz and the defensive ends for New England, they got hurt, and Farrell.
Wise was, how old was Wise? Wasn't Wise 29 or 30?
Wise was in his 30s, man. Look, the whole point is, look, they
31.
They thought that they was going for it with Jaden, but you're not going for it with these veterans who are on their last legs. You go for it when you get veterans, young veterans. We didn't open up that checkbook this year. Like, I really thought they made a mistake not signing back Jeremy Chin. That's one thing. They try to fix some things that wasn't broken. That's all I'm saying, man.
Okay.
I'm not.
All right, what are you buying and what are you
getting
selling? That's actually the segment.
I'm buying Jeremy McNichols. All right. It was a lot of questions when Eckler went down. Who would in that spot? And I think he's not getting the ball enough. Monday night they finally started, to get him the rock. I think they need to go down the Jeremy McNichols rabbit hole a little bit more, and I think it takes some pressure off everybody else.
You're not worried that he's 29 going on 30?
Hey, man, he's producing. He's a young veteran. That's my whole point. A young veteran.
Well, okay. Well,
producing.
Wise was 31. That's not ancient.
Okay, it's not ancient, but he had a lot of miles on them tires, man, at a defensive end spot.
Right.
All right. Now, like I said, they try to fill the cupboard with food that's about to expire, man. It's cheap, yeah, but you only got a day to eat it.
I'll talk to you later. We got to get to a break. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com.
All right, happy Wednesday, everybody. We will start off in the NFL with a little bit of breaking re-signing news, I suppose. Aiden Hutchinson agrees to a 4-year extension with the Detroit Lions worth up to $180 million and contains $141 million in guarantees. Needless to say, a nice payday for the defensive end out of Michigan. Blue Jays, even the World Series, 2-2 in a win over the Dodgers that was spurred by a Vlad Guerrero Jr. 2-run shot, and then some small ball from the Jays to balloon their lead by a score of 6-1. Dodgers get one back in the ninth, but Louis Varland able to close it out for Toronto. Final score 6-2. Game 5 underway tonight. The final game from Dodger Stadium this season. That'll be at 8 p.m. Plus, the Hoops, the Wizards, they held a nearly 20-point lead in the third quarter, but the Sixers able to chip away at that lead with another poor defensive performance down the stretch from Washington. Wizards fall 139-134, and the Caps, they lose on national TV 1-0 in Dallas off of a very weird bounce that went off Martin Ferravari and into the net past Logan Thompson. Again, Caps fall in Dallas 1-0. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us. Turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Speaking of cupboard is bare and expiration dates, as Paulie said, the problem was the cupboard was bare, but they filled it with a bunch of food that's about to expire. The Denver Broncos just signed 41-year-old Mercedes Lewis to their practice squad. They're thin right now at tight end. If he ends up playing in a game, he'll be the oldest tight end to ever play a snap in an NFL regular season game. He was a first-round pick of Jacksonville in the 2006 draft. He's had a decent career, but never was like, I don't think he ever had he didn't have a Pro Bowl season, did he? I don't think so. Was with Jacksonville forever. Didn't he play with Aaron Rodgers for some time too?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. All right. Done for the day. Chris is next.